Good day, everyone. My name is Justin Wee, and we are the Group 5. We are here to discuss the Chapter 5 entitled The Local History, Museums, and Cultural Communities in Mindanao. But before we begin, I will tell you the overview of lessons here in our chapter. So, it discusses about the definition as well as value and goals of local and oral history. It will lead the students, us students, to have a better understanding in doing local or oral history, which is the primary source material obtained to capture and preserve first-hand information of life and stories or events that would otherwise be lost. It deals also about the museums and historical shrines that serve as institutions, and that also tells the story of man and how humanity had survived in this environment over the years. The important facts are to be tackled like the Mindanao's history, the indigenous people and their rituals, cultures, and traditions. And students are well expected to appreciate the contribution to the islands of different tribes of Lumads and Muslims here in Mindanao. So now let's proceed to lesson 1 entitled The Local History Teaches About Community. So our reporters for today would be Crystal Joy Ramping, Jetro Vidal, and Rahman Saptula.
So again, good day everyone. So this time, we were going to tackle about the lesson 1, which is The Local History Teaches About Community. So when we say local history, it is the key understanding about the different cultures and perspective of a small communities. So without studying local history, we couldn't find or we couldn't see what are the different cultures or perspective that a community has, or we are not able to identify, we are not able to know where did this culture came from and where did this originated. And then local history presents the different experiences and past events of single communities that live equally unique among others and ourselves. It provides the documentation as well as the analysis of the broad processes which are important in the life of the people. So as we all know, every community has a unique experiences and happenings in the past, right? So those experiences and happenings in the past made our history. So, every important events happened before in a single community became part of our local history. So it may be the history of the municipality, the countryside, the residential area, or either the metropolis neighborhood. So one of the best example is the province of Sultan Kudarat. So this province was derived from a Muslim ruler named Sultan Muhammad Diputuan Kudarat. So Sultan Muhammad began to assert his leadership in the year 1619. So medyo matagal-tagal na rin. So he is considered as a national hero. And in his honor, the province was named after him. That's why tinawag itong province of Sultan Kudarat. And according to Haley 2008, he said that the national history can be completely read and realized if there are collective readings of the local history. So, mas kapani-paniwala at mabilis maintindihan ng isang history if there are collective readings or either proof regarding the local history. So, this proof and collective readings gives us the proper as well as the accurate understanding and knowledge about the local history. And in terms of studies, local history enables the students to gain greater interest in history. Like, his mind is not only filled with historical events as well as the important dates, but also helps him in analyzing the small details and happenings that made his local history unique from the others. So when we are about to study local history, So every individuals and students, including me, has the opportunity to gain more knowledge and interest in history. Like, hindi lang puro historical events and important dates lang ang alam natin. But through studying local history, we are able to analyze the small details as well as the most important things happened in a certain community and how thus it became unique from the others.
Goal of local history. The goal of local history is to allow the students to be directly engaged in doing it. When the students participate in gathering of data, they should bear in mind that this will bring them higher sense of community involvement. Local history helps students to better understand their community, as well as the inequities in education, poverty, health, and most important of all is to know their history. History that gave change in what we experience in everyday life. The students will learn to analyze data with a careful and critical eye for the most intricate details and to enable them to question the foreseen data. Learning about our local history turns the grand patterns of historical change into concrete. Stories that narrated the lives of individuals in the past. It is thus vital to increasing one's understanding of its own historical processes. When the students are directly engaged, they learn the sense of involvement, collaboration, and commitment. In order to help achieve this goal, there is a need to think outside the box and introduce new ways in processing the data, as well as the expertise in choosing of words to be used in their research and writing. The main objective of studying local history is to help students deeply understand our own history, mapa-community man yan or Philippines as a whole, so that they could develop true sense of their own cultural heritage, to develop the children's skills of inquiry, investigation, analysis, evaluation, and presentation as well.
Hi, I'm Raman Septula. We are the Group 5 and I will discuss the importance of local history in the Philippine history. In creating the national history is cannot be just iskarnapan. It should not be ignored, rejected. In this respect, the national history is a part of our lives and that makes us Filipino. The understanding and writing of the great events that happen cannot be set aside. It is part of our history. It should be recorded so even the young generation, they have an idea of what happened in our nation. It is needed to come up with a local history to make awareness to the vast and insufficient nature of the Philippine history. It is really needed for us to the study of local history because local history contains a lot of details, stories that help us reveal our society changes and our impact the lives of our people in our community. It also helps us to be aware of the facts and the wrong information. It is really important because it will affect us in the next generation to come. Wrong information that was proven and make believe in many people, especially in the Philippines, may really affect us in the present because we may believe in a wrong history in our culture, religion, and even traditions that we practice then it would be passed on the next generation, make them also believe in what wrong and destroyed our future and true in history.
Next is Lesson 2, entitled Museums, and our reporter for that is Angelica Sablay, Job Sereniaga, Franz Rico Pasquin, and Paul Vince Cuyo.
I am Joby Sereniaga. Museums contain records of human presence in the individual experiences of people. It proves that written documents learned by the student in the classroom are authentic. So, according to this, museums ay naglalaman daw ng mga remains of humans such as bones, their old relics, artifacts, and many more. These things are used as primary resources in collecting historical data. It is also used as evidence to prove the written document about our history. Through this object ay mas nagiging kapani-paniwala yung mga documentations about our history. Also, museum in the past were being misunderstood kasi mostly ng mga tao noon, they don't understand the essence of museum. Basta for them ay nakakamangha yung mga museum, but it doesn't matter at all. So, there are 4 types of museum in the Philippines. First is the General Museum, known as multidisciplinary. Kaya tinawag tong multidisciplinary because it holds more than one subject. From the word general, it means yung klase ng museum na to is pangkalahatan or pangmalawakan. And then, we also have the Natural History and Natural Science Museum. This type of museum concerned with our world's evolution from the past to present. And this kind of museum focuses only in human nature. Third, we have Science and Technology Museum. From the word technology, it is already understandable that this kind of museum focuses in collecting technology, specifically advanced technology. Lastly, we have Art Museum, and this kind of museum focuses in collecting artworks only. So, here in the Philippines, we have 8 museums. First is the University of Santo Tomas Museum of Arts and Sciences. Second, Ayala Museum, Rizal Shrine, the National Museum of Natural History, the Mind Museum, the National Museum of the Philippines, the Museo Dabawenyu, and lastly, we have Butuan National Museum.
Good day everyone, I am Angelica Sablay. So now let's proceed to the importance and purpose of museum. Museum is an important institution that preserves cultural heritage with the primary intent to collect, preserve, understand, and exhibit the different relics and artifacts for a better understanding of the past. Yes, exactly. So, diba, as you can see, museums are in charge of taking care of our community artifacts and displaying items of its own society and even foreigners outside the country, just to present how much history we have in our community. So, ano nga ba ang kahalagahan ng museum? So, the importance of museum is to give us the knowledge about the past. And then, nabanggit dito na it preserves the cultural heritage. So, pag sinabi natin cultural heritage, ibig sabihin nito, pamana ng kultura. And as you can see, or as you can observe, until now, sa generation natin, di ba, marami pa rin nagpa-practice ng different cultures na pamana sa atin ng kultura or ng nakaraan. And then, hindi siya nawawala. Yes, hindi siya nawawala because of museums. So, that's why napakahalaga ng role ng museum sa atin. And then, it is said that the primary intent of museum is to collect, preserve, understand, and exhibit the different relics and artifacts. So, pag sinabi nating relics, ito yung mga labi. And then, pag sinabi naman nating artifacts, it means it is a natural object or an object made by human being. Its example is yung mga sinaunang kagamitan. So, alamin naman natin kung ano nga ba ang purpose ng museum. Bakit mayroon tayong tinatawag na museum? So, museum saves the stories of our local community or let the whole Philippines on how cultures, religions, traditions had originated. Without museums, our history will get lost. Yes, mawawala talaga siya. And then, without museum, wala tayong knowledge about sa past and we cannot complete our identity. So I think that's all for the importance and purpose of museum. Thank you and God bless.
So let's proceed to the next topic about art museum. Art museum, sometimes called art gallery in some place, is a concern primarily with the object as a means of unaided communications with its visitors. The aesthetic value is therefore a major consideration in accepting items for the collections. Traditionally, these collections have comprised painting, sculpture, and decorative arts. A number of art museums have included the 19th century when they were introduced particularly to encourage good industrial designs. It can be argued that aesthetics have subordinated functions and associations to such an extent that objects often unpretend in a totally alien context. In some countries, these criticisms apply to archaeological materials as well. So, ang art museum, ang pinakasimple na meaning ng art museum ay ang art museum ay isang non-profit or permanenteng institusyon sa serbisyo at sa lipunan at nagpapaunlad sa isang lipunan na kung saan ito ay bukas sa lahat ng mga publiko. So, let's proceed to what is the difference between art museum and art gallery. Ano nga ba ang pagkakaiba ng art museum sa art gallery? The purpose of art museum is to share a range of artwork with the broader public. Museum focus on education and awareness. So, ang museum daw ay nakafocus sa education and awareness. So, they will often to receive the public funding to help them make the art more widely available to general public. So, ang art museum ay isang aktibidad na kung saan binibisita or dinadayo ng mga ibang mga tao or mga dayuhan ang museo upang mapagmasdan ang mga artifact na gawa ng mga sinaunang tao noon. So, let's proceed to the art gallery. However, an art gallery is a business that displays and sells good. So, ang art gallery daw guys ay isang business o isang negosyo na kung saan nagpapakita ito na nagbebenta ng kanilang mga item o produkto. An art gallery, like Eden Gallery, aims to raise the profile of artists who exhibit its space and ultimately sells artworks. So, let's proceed where to find art galleries and art museum. So, saan ba natin makita ang art museum and art gallery? Art gallery and art museums can be found all over the world. So, ang art museum daw at ang art gallery ay makikita natin sa buong mundo. However, some creative sites are hub for art gallery and art museums with many potential destinations to view and buy arts in places like New York, Paris, or London. So, ang pinakamahusay na maggawa at may potential na gumawa ng mga art museum at art gallery na nakapaloob dito ay makita at mabibili sa lugar ng New York, Paris, at London. So, this is the end of my report. Thank you so much and God bless us all.
I'm Francisco T. Pasquin. We are the Group 5. My topics all about types of shrines. Rizal Shrine. Jose Potasio Rizal Mercado Alonso Rialonda was born on June 19, 1861 in original two-story Spanish colonial house in Calamba, Laguna. During World War II, Rizal's original house was destroyed but was rebuilt in the same site on June 19, 1950. Rizal's original belongings keep intact inside the shrine. The visitor can roam the house freely. Pinaglaban Shrine in the Spirit of Pinaglaban was built in 1973 to commemorate 1896 Battle of Pinaglaban. Through successfully incising El Polvorin, the revolutionaries lost the battle and unable to reach El Disposito. Lapu-Lapu Shrine is a 20 meters bronze statue located in Mactan Shrine Park in Puntay Gaynon, Mactan Island, Cebu. The statue was erected to honor Raja Lapu-Lapu, the chieftain of Mactan Island, who defeated Ferdinand Magellan during the historic Battle of Mactan in 1521.
So let's proceed to our last lesson entitled Cultural Communities in Mindanao. Our reporters here is Christy Paran, Jenny Rose Tunggayan, Princess Tawakal, John Lloyd Tibangin, and also RB Jan Umadhay.
Good day everyone, I am John Lloyd Tibangin. Cultural Communities in Mindanao. The Indigenous Cultural Communities, ICC in the Philippines or LUMAD, are believed to make up 10% of the national population, also known as cultural minorities. So, despite of modernization that are being rampant over this generation, there are still people who don't embrace these changes. They tend to protect their culture rather than losing its existence. By doing this, they were very successful to prevent their culture and traditions remain on this modern world. There are some instances of adaptation of the new evolved culture of the modernization. Thus, because of our connection to them. By means of helping, we don't just extend our help to them. We bring traditions, culture, and way of living in the modern world. One of its example is the donation of material things. People bring cultures to them, not just the help. We cannot deny the fact that despite of these changes, they continue growing families. There are now numerous in numbers. In fact, there are 10% of the national population. Most of ICC possess money or private property and widely discriminated against. That's the reason why they find it so hard to integrate with mainstream society. We all know that there are some ICC members embrace some of the modern cultures. In fact, there are some living in the cities and having educations. Despite of these things, we cannot deny the fact that most of them do not have proper education, causing of not having properties, enough financial and etc. They always have the inherited properties or the ancestral domains, thus also protected by legal laws for indigenous peoples. These are things maybe I think that it's hard for them to integrate with the destruction of the forest as well as with the efforts of the lowland. Majority to assimilate into Christian culture. The ICC struggle to protect their ancestral domain and cultural identity. Republic Act 6734, enacted during Corazon Aquino's time. In 1986, 15 of more than 18 ICC in Mindanao adopted the term lumad, a Visayan word native or indigenous, to distinguish themselves from the Christians and Muslims in Mindanao. Republic Act 6734, enacted during Corazon Aquino's time, used the term to differentiate these ethnic communities from the Bangsamoro people.
Good day everyone, I am Princess Marcos Tawakal and this is my report. My report is all about the Lumads. It is said that Lumads are non-Muslim or non-Christian. They are called indigenous people. So bakit siya natawag na indigenous? It is because the Lumad is a Visayan term meaning native or indigenous. So pag sinabi nating indigenous, ang ibig sabihin nito ay katutubo. So, sino-sino nga ba yung mga tinatawag na Lumad sa Pilipinas? The Lumads include the Bagobo, Blaan, Bukidnon people, Higaonon, Kalagan, Kamigin, Mamanwa, Mandaya, Manobo, Magsaka, Matigsalug, Sangil, Subanon, Tagabawa, Tagakaulo, Talandig, Tasaday, Tiduray, Tigwahunon, and Umayamnon. They are adopted by a group of 15 from a more than 18 Mindanao ethnic groups and their Cotabato Congress to distinguish them from the other Mindanaons, Muro, or Christian. Idiniin ni Felipe Landa Hocano na sa karamihan ng mga kaso, ang wika ang tanging elemento ng pagkakaiba-iba sa mga kulturang etniko, lalo na sa mga sumasakop sa magkakatabi at nakakahawang teritoryo.
I am Arbijan Madhai, and the next topic I will be discussing the Muslims. Muslims are believers of Islam. They possess different culture from Christians. They are strong believers of their own cultures. Islam are very religious. Islam means complete submission of the will of Allah. Complete submission means that everything happened to the man should be accordance to the will of Allah. The Muslim's creed is very simple. There is no God but God Muhammad is his messenger. In Christians, they believe with Jesus, but Muslims believes that Muhammad was the last messenger of God. And the Holy Al-Quran is the book where the God's message is written.
So, Mindanao Island is the second largest island in the Philippines. Irregularly shaped, it measured 293 miles or 471 kilometers north to south, and 324 miles or 521 kilometers east to west. The Zamboanga Peninsula or west extends southwesterly towards the Sulu Archipelago and Borneo. Mount Apo is the highest peak in the Philippines. Lake Lanao, created by a lava dam, has an area of 134 square miles or 347 square kilometers. The island of Mindanao has a marsh game refuge and a bird sanctuary for a rare Philippine eagles. The chief crops are corn, rice, abaca, banana, pineapples, mangoes, and coconuts. The timber industry is important. There are gold, nickel, iron, and coal deposits. Although Muslims are no longer a majority, Islamic culture is evident. Other significant groups include the Tiboli, Subanon, Bukidnon, and Bagubo.
I am Christy K. Paran. Brief history of Mindanao Island. Mindanao, named the Magindanaons, who constitute the largest sultanate historically and evidence from the maps during the 17th and 18th centuries, suggests the name was used to refer to the land by natives at the time. Mindanao is known as the Land of Promise because of its rich biodiversity. It supports human and societal needs, including food and nutrition security, energy, and fresh water. And Mindanao, unique and beautiful, aside from mountain resort, Mindanao prides itself in a great number of beautiful and refreshing waterfalls. The Iligan is known on the city of the waterfalls because on the presence of the city. And Mindanao, this is the largest concentration of ethnic minorities in the Philippines that include Maguindanao, Maranao, and Sangil. Also, there are some culture and traditional practices that Mindanao usually perform like folk dance. The Mindanao folk dance is just one among the many things that make the cultural practices in Mindanao stand out. One notable folk dance in Mindanao is Pangalay. It is a tradition in Mindanao performed usually during the weddings of affluent families. Kung mapapansin mo sa ibang online friend mo, pag nag-ask sila ng question kung taga saan ka and you answered that you live in Mindanao, especially sa Luzon and Visayas, they are terrified and will say that di ba napakaka-high risk ng lugar na yan kasi maraming rebelde dyan at parating may gera. Yan yung kaagad tanong nila. Well, according to Goggle Island, there is a risk of terrorist attacks and kidnappings in Mindanao. The situation is more critical in the following region of Western and Central Maguindanao, Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, and this is the why continents are afraid to come. I visit the Mindanao Island. But aside from the Mindanao is a beautiful land, there is a lot of beautiful places, a relaxing views, and many more, so there's nothing to afraid of, especially now that the government tightened the security. At ang Mindanao ay isa sa pinakasikat na lugar na kung saan makikita ang fresko ng mga gulay, hangin, at dito mo makita ang pinakamaganda at malaki na hospital na makikita sa Sultan Kudarat. Lalo na ang kanilang kapitol na napakalinis at dahil sa magandang pamamalakad ng ating pamahalaan.
So let's proceed to the summary of Chapter 5. But this summary cannot be seen on modules, so just bear with me. So, our local history presents the past event and experiences of single communities that live equally among the others. It will help us all to understand how great our society is, how purely it was with its astonishing stories, and it shows to us how important to know our local history before or rather than exploring other cultures, traditions, and beliefs of other race. We think that people had realized to build museums, which its primary intent is to collect, preserve, understand, and exhibit those discovered artifacts that now we study, see, and comprehend its purpose. Paintings that reveals the identity of the past, and shrines that sculpts the mind of every individuals. And lastly, we should know that until now, there are people who still perform their beliefs in the way that the past had taught them. They are the Lumads and Muslims here in Mindanao, rich with incredible traditions which they never forget, and life of the past that they still present for the future. So that's it. Thank you guys for watching and listening to us. I hope you've learned something from us. Have a great day and goodbye.